I'm Amanda from Amandafesting, and I've been asked to share my story for Endometriosis Awareness Month and to share it in 5 minutes. Just five. The synchronicities are not lost on me that it is 5 minutes that they want me to talk for. Let me tell you why. 5 minutes was all I had. 5 minutes standing before my legs would just give out. 5 minutes before the pain would force me to sit, to lie down, to stop. 5 minutes before it felt like my insides would just come gushing out of my lower back. I remember dreaming of being able to do normal things and dreaming of extravagant adventures. I remember going to bed every single night and promising myself that things would be different the next day, that I would be able to exercise, that I would be able to eat better, because that's what the doctors always told me that I had to do. But the pain never let up. No matter how much I wanted to change, my body just wouldn't cooperate. The world was telling me that my struggles were my fault. And that if I only tried harder, if I only ate differently, if I only moved more, that everything would be different. I remember my periods being so bad when I was a teenager. I would pass out from the pain. In my early 20s, sex was very painful for me. I never liked sex. I never understood it. So I stopped having sex. I stopped having relationships. And I did that for over 10 years. It actually took a pandemic for me to want to try to date again and want to try to have sex and do those things again. And I still learned that I didn't like it and that sex was still painful. But everything changed for me when I had to go off birth control. That actually made all of my symptoms even worse. So I went from already being sedentary to barely being able to do anything because the bleeding just got even more out of control. I bled from September all the way until December, every single day. And I was dropping clots the size of freaking toonies out of me. I would go for ultrasounds and they would say no, this is fibroids, this is cysts. At one point I remember my doctor saying that they thought it could be endometriosis, but they were like, no, there's no way it could be endometriosis. I begged for a hysterectomy and my doctors wouldn't give it to me because they said that I would change my mind and want to have children because I was so young. And then I had to go to a gynecologist to get an IUD put in, and that was the worst experience and most painful experience to date of my life. I ended up learning that I had cervical cancer. I was told that I had cancer while this gynecologist had me on the table, giving me a colposcopy 2 weeks after the IUD had been inserted. And I remember just having this thought, I was did I manifest this for myself? Did I actually just get cancer? And when they finally did the hysterectomy, it took so long because they had a lot to do in there. They discovered that I had stage 4 endometriosis. One of my ovaries was plastered to my uterus wall. They said that they couldn't even recognize it. And my uterus was attached to my rectum. And I remember standing, and this was a few weeks after my surgery, after learning that I had stage 4 endometriosis and not really knowing what that meant back then. And I remember standing right here and being in total disbelief when my mind had finally caught up to everything that had happened. And I was searching for that pain in my lower back that used to keep me down all those years. And I sat down at a disbelief and I was like, where is that pain? Where is it? I was searching my body for it and I couldn't find it. And I started setting a timer. I set the timer for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I was able to stand without lower back pain. And I started to walk around this fountain around my building. And then I started to go a little bit further and I walked around the block. I had never done that before. I had never walked around the block before in my apartment ever. And then I did a little further. I discovered a park behind my house one day. And then I did a hike with friends and I walked 4K and I couldn't believe that I had done that. And I'm like, if I can do that, I can keep going. And sure enough, I did. And I found myself starting off the year of 2023 walking and hiking through magical rainforests out west in Canada and taking a trip I never thought I would ever be able to take. And I ended up continuing to travel, and I was so excited. I was like a toddler figuring out how to walk. And I remember I took trips to New York City and New Orleans, and I made my way to Turkey and Greece. And Turkey was a highlight for me because I found my way to Cappadocia. And I'd always wanted to be in a hot air balloon, but I never knew how I would ever possibly stand up for the flight because of that lower back pain. And I did it. I stood up and I got into that flight, and it was like this surreal moment and full circle moment of my whole journey. When the world told me that I was lazy, I knew deep down that something was wrong. We as women, we know our intuitions. We know when something is going on. Those 5 minutes at the beginning, 5 minutes used to be my limit. And now 5 minutes, I'm still standing through this video. Like, look at this, still standing. And 5 minutes is just the beginning for me. 5 minutes now, I can lace up my shoes before I go for a walk. I can take in a view I've never thought I would reach at the top of a hill. I spent years being trapped in 5 minutes of increments of all that suffering. And now I'm just taking 5 minutes to just appreciate how far I've come in it all. Okay, so I went a little bit over 5 minutes, but I have a very important question for you. Will you stand with me? Set a timer. Feel every second. Stand for those who can't. Stand for those still waiting to be heard. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a really meaningful day.